sanctuary stuff. This is also a soup lunch Sunday. Our youth group, the Yuckies, Young Unitarian Universalists Combined for Knowledge and Interest, is what Yuckies stands for, are selling soup in Fellowship Hall after the service. They are trying to raise money for a trip to General Assembly in Baltimore in June. So I hope you'll support them and have some yummy soup. And it also gives you time to sit and chat with folks from church. So that is all our announcements this morning. Let us enter into worship with our centering song, Meditation on Breathing. We don't have the words, but you'll pick up on it if you don't know it. It is a busy holiday season, as you may be experiencing, and I have a lot going on right now. So I'm going to need your help telling our story together. We've done this before. You did a good job a couple years ago, so we're going to try it again. So I'm going to tell one of my favorite Christmas stories today. It starts out kind of spooky. The first line is, Marley was dead to begin with. It's kind of creepy, right? That doesn't sound like a Christmas story. That sounds like a Halloween story or something. But it starts out, Marley was dead to begin with. Do you know what story I'm talking about? You can just yell it out. A Christmas Carol, yes, and it's by a guy named Charles Dickens, who was a Unitarian, by the way, if you didn't know that. And the main character of this story is a guy named Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge. Now, what was Ebenezer Scrooge like? How would we describe him? Miserly. Oh, that's such a good word. Miserly means you don't want to give anything. Unhappy. You can just yell words out. Mean, stingy, grumpy, lonely, nasty. Ooh, good. Sad. Yes. Some of us are empathizing with Scrooge here. So he was a big meanie, wasn't he? So this is how Charles Dickens described him. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner, which is the Victorian way of saying a big meanie, right? So there's another main character, a guy who worked for Scrooge. What was his name? Bob Cratchit. And how would we describe Bob? Sweet, kind, hardworking, a good dad. Yeah, he had a lot of children. Yeah, devoted to his family. I think poor. He did not have a lot of money because Scrooge didn't pay him a lot of money, right? But poor, but very generous with what he had, right? So Scrooge only cared about money, and Bob was very generous, right? So the night before Christmas, Scrooge goes home to his house, and he's visited by the ghost of Jacob Marley. We know from the beginning Marley was dead to begin with, right? He's visited by the ghost of Jacob Marley, and Jacob Marley says to Scrooge, you are a big meanie, and you need to change your ways, and you're going to be visited by 3 more ghosts to help you learn that lesson. And Scrooge says, bah humbug, which is the Victorian way of saying whatever. But he is, in fact, visited by 3 ghosts, right? The first ghost is the ghost of Christmas past, right? So the ghost of Christmas past reminds Scrooge of his past. And we, the readers or watchers of the movie, learn that Scrooge had a really lonely childhood. He had a sister who died. That's not in the Muppet version. And he was not very good at relationships, right? Then we have the ghost of Christmas present. The ghost of Christmas present. And this ghost takes Scrooge all over London and shows him people having a wonderful, happy Christmas celebration. And then some of those people are saying that they're really glad Scrooge didn't come to their happy Christmas celebration because he would be a big meanie and they didn't like him very much. He also gets to visit Bob Cratchit's house and sees Bob's beautiful family and how much love they have for each other. And he notices that Bob's son, Tiny Tim, is very sick. Now, the third ghost comes. Which one is that? Christmas future or Christmas yet to come. Now, that ghost tells Scrooge that he's going to show him things that might happen if Scrooge doesn't stop being a big meanie, right? These are not things that are definitely going to happen. These are things that might happen if Scrooge doesn't change his ways. So he shows Scrooge that he visits Bob Cratchit's house, and he sees that Bob Cratchit's family is very sad because unfortunately Tiny Tim has died. He also visits Scrooge's funeral and sees all kinds of people being very happy that Scrooge died. So after that ghost comes, Scrooge goes to bed. And here, in my opinion, is the least believable part of this whole story. Because in one night, Scrooge changes completely. Now, it is my experience with change that it doesn't happen in one night. Usually when we try to change, we have to work really hard. Sometimes we start to change and then we go back a little bit and we have to retry again. Change is a long process. But for Scrooge, wonderfully, magically, it happened all in one night. And he woke up the next morning and he was kind and he was generous and he used his money and his privilege to make the world a better place. Right? And this is what Dickens said about him. Dickens wrote, "It was always said of him, of Scrooge, that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be said of us and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone." Thank you for helping me tell our story this morning.
Thank you, Chrissy. I'd like to invite the ushers to come forward at this time to take today's offering. This church exists and thrives based on the generosity of you, the people of the congregation, with great expression of thanksgiving and appreciation. We will now take the collection.
In just a moment, we will break off into our workshops. In your order of service, there's a listing of the different workshops. If you're not sure where the different rooms are, just ask someone. There'll be people around to help direct you. I do want to highlight in here we have a pop-up choir, and during this service, it will be led by Jeff Labonde, and it will be a pop-up children's choir, although it is all ages, but we have special music for kids. So if you want to be part of the pop-up all ages choir this morning, just stay in here with Jeff. We'll have about 20 minutes in our workshops, and then we'll come back together for the conclusion of our service. When you hear the chime, please make your way back into the sanctuary. Now, please rise as you are able and join in singing hymn 235 in your hymnal, 235, Deck the Halls.
presentation of the symbols of the season. The Christmas tree. We call forth the decorations of our Christmas tree. With pre-Christian and pagan origins, the tree has served as a symbol for the Christmas celebration for centuries. In medieval Germany, a tree was decorated with fruits, nuts, and candles and placed in the town square. In Victorian England, trees were decorated with sweets for children to enjoy. The Christmas tree was brought to our shores in the 19th century. Both Easton and Lancaster, Pennsylvania, claimed to be the first towns in America to have Christmas trees. And in the early 1800s, evergreen and brightly lit, the Christmas tree fascinates all generations and calls forth the spirit of Christmas.
We call forth the menorah, the symbol of the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. The menorah reminds people of the book of their ancient ancestors' victory over their oppressors and the rededication of the most holy site, the temple in Jerusalem. Although they had only enough oil for one day to light the lamp and consecrate the temple, the lamp burned miraculously for 8 days. Hanukkah, the festival of lights.
We call forth the Kwanzaa Kinara. Kinara is a Swahili word meaning candle holder. Kwanzaa was created to introduce and reinforce 7 basic values of African culture which contribute to building and reinforcing family, community, and culture among African American people, as well as Africans throughout the world. Like our own Unitarian Universalist principles, Kwanzaa celebrates 7 principles. The first and foremost is unity in family, community, nation, and race. Each candle represents one of the principles. The black one symbolizes the African people, the red, their struggle, and the green, the future and hope that comes from their struggle.
Finally, we call forth the Yule log, symbol of the winter solstice celebration. In ancient times, people of what is now Northern Europe would celebrate Jule or Yule with feasting and drinking. The Yule log represents health, fruitfulness, and productivity. The Yule log was believed to bring beneficial magic and was kept burning for at least 12 hours and sometimes as long as 12 days, warming both the house and those who resided within. Now I'm going to invite up the members of our pop-up choir to provide a musical offering.
Wow Pop-Up Choir. The amount of creativity here is just pretty awesome. You know, I just have to say, I think it's wonderful, this tradition you have here at this church of dedicating one service to decorating your facility, your building. It's really fantastic. In most congregations, people have small groups of people who do all the decoration, and then their Christmas season is ruined because they had to do so much work and nobody else helped them. But here, everybody is helping each other, and it's great. The month of December is a month that is filled with religious holidays like none other. On December the 8th is a Buddhist holiday called the Bodhi Day. It's the holiday that celebrates the supposed moment when the Buddha decided to dedicate his entire energy and life at that moment to acquiring enlightenment. And from that experience, there came the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path and the full variety of the Buddhist tradition that we know today. On December the 12th, there is the feast day of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Now, this comes out of the Catholic tradition, and it's not so much a big deal here in the eastern parts of this country, but it is a very big deal in Southern California, in Arizona, and New Mexico, and among Mexican Americans. And this Catholic holiday has this special quality of almost being a day in which the Catholic faith honors the feminine side of the divine, because this particular festival is all about the supposed appearance of Mary, the mother of Jesus, to a humble worker in 1531, a long time ago. And it is now a cherished tradition and a very big deal. And it is a reminder and affirmation that Mary, the mother of God in the tradition of the Christians, is a loving, protective mother and is a unifying figure. And of course, from December the 12th through the 26th is Hanukkah. This is the eight-day Jewish festival of lights, which celebrates the Maccabean revolt in Israel. 8 candles are lit with a menorah in honor of this. It reminds the people of the book of their ancient ancestors' victory over their oppressors and the rededication of their most holy site. And the legend is that although they had only enough oil for one day to light the lamp, to consecrate the temple, the lamp burned miraculously for 8 days, and hence the origin of this tradition. December the 21st, the winter solstice, which is a pagan holiday that's not very broadly practiced by people in this country, but it's a very important tradition internationally. It is the day which is supposedly the shortest day of sunlight, and when the sun is at the lowest maximum elevation in the sky. And this tradition goes way back, many think, to the prehistory of humanity, and it honors our connection, our living connection with the natural world. And of course, on the 25th, there's Christmas, which we all know about, the story of God coming to earth and being incarnated in human life on earth and bringing light and love to life. And December 26th to January 1st, Kwanzaa, which is a fairly new tradition. And each of the 7 days of Kwanzaa is dedicated to one of the basic principles, the first of which is unity, which was mentioned earlier. The second one is the principle of self-determination. The third is collective work and responsibility. The fourth is cooperative economics. The fifth is purpose. The sixth is creativity. And the seventh is faith. These traditions have many differences. They cannot be coalesced into one thing that all say more or less the same thing. But there's some broad themes that are evident. They are all attempts by human beings over centuries to honor in a special time and place each year in what we call a holiday, and invites people to think about things they normally don't think about in their ordinary life. They are all about the aim to connect human beings to something beyond themselves, attempts to elevate human life, to see purpose and meaning, to see their individual and collective lives in a broader context. They are all attempts to lift humanity, elevate humanity, to see life in a sacred framework. They are all attempts to unite human beings. They are all attempts to bring order, meaning, purpose, a moral code, and a transcendence to society. We could sum it up by saying all of these traditions are the human attempt to draw our attention to the spiritual dimension of life. They are all attempts to provide us with a balance between being in sacred spaces in which we renew and nourish ourselves and secular spaces in which we live and work and deal with the daily cares of life. There is only one reason why these traditions were created and abide and persist and thrive over the years and over the centuries. They nourish us. They heal us. They give us hope, meaning, and direction. They give us perspective for the living of our lives. So as we enter this time of year, may we be acutely aware of the power of these traditions and the power of the hope they give us. Could we now stand for our closing hymn? Please stand as you are willing and able. Our closing hymn is This Little Light of Mine, number 118. Wow, you're acquiring to yourself. Now we're going to have Chrissy to extinguish our chalice, and you're going to have a chance to prove that you memorize the benediction. Are you ready? Who's going to lead? Go ahead. You succeeded. Food is at the other end of the building.